Thank you so much for being with us today. We are very excited to have you here for our first webinar through Nevada Money Mentors called Desktop Diner Series. And our first topic for today is very timely. We want you to feel confident in the way that you're managing some of your personal finances during this sort of crisis and emergency time that many of us have never experienced before. So our hope for you today is that you leave feeling kind of charged with some new tips and tools that you can use. And at the very end, we'll talk very briefly about the CARES Act that passed. And although we know somewhat about it, if you have some questions, we can see if we can help answer those. With that too, I should tell you that I am, as with everyone else, working from home and did a webinar last week and unfortunately had some internet issues. So if the call drops, I do have two of my Nevada Money mentors on the line. They'll pop in and chat with you about some things until it gives me some time to get back into the room. And as a last reminder, just feel free to ask questions in the chat and our money mentor, Devin, will be right on that. So with that, I'm going to turn off my talking head here and get right to it. So we know that, as I mentioned, during this time, it can be quite stressful when looking at our money, and staying up at night and worrying about money is not going to magically make that cash appear that we need, or will it help us decide how we're going to save for even next year's tuition. So instead, learning how to calm your fears and feel confident about your money choices is a matter of just education, action, and respect. Today, we're going to discuss some of the proactive ways to stay on top of your finances, and really hope that we can charge you with the information so that that anxious feeling that we get when it comes when we're checking our bank balances these days, it will dissipate in favor of more control and more confidence. So to start, I wanted to take a few minutes and introduce ourselves. If you're not familiar with who Nevada Money Mentors are on campus, we are a free resource to you as students, and we help students with all things personal finance. That can be everything from building up your first budget, creating that spending plan, setting some savings goals and achieving them, paying back student loans. And to do that, we provide the following. We offer one-on-one financial coaching, and that is still something that we're offering during this time. We're just meeting with students virtually. If you're interested in that, I'll explain it a little bit further on the next slide. But we also try and get out and about to meet with you in workshops and host fun tabling events throughout the year and presentations in classes. So if you're part of an organization, you would like to have a guest speaker during this time, pop in through a Zoom. We are happy to schedule those for you. And we're getting very creative in the ways that we can reach students during this time, because we want you to continue to feel confident in what's happening with your money. With that also, as I mentioned, we do offer the financial coaching, and now is a great time if you just want a second opinion or somebody to chat with about what's going on in your personal financial life. So the way that the coaching works is you would sit down virtually one-on-one with a peer mentor or myself. The peer mentors that we have are finance degrees at the University of Nevada. The sessions that we offer, as I mentioned, are totally free. They are confidential. And we also like to just remind you that they're non-judgmental, excuse me. You can come into a safe space and talk about all things personal finance, all your money stuff. What you can share as little as or as much as you would like, just so that we can help you set your financial goals and create the action plans to achieve those goals. So financial coaching is about working together with your coach to outline what it is that you want to get better at with your money, follow the action plan over a series of a couple months, and then be held accountable to that goal that you set. To give you some background, we meet with our students about 3 to 4 times in one semester, and that just gives us the opportunity to check in with you periodically, see how things are going with your plan, and give you some additional tips and insight as to how we can adjust your spending plans or your budgets. So if that's something that's of interest to you, please click on the link at the bottom, or anytime you're ready, we're at unr.edu Nevada Money Mentors to schedule your appointment, and we hope that you'll take advantage of that. So we know any emergency or crisis situation, the very first thing that we say you can do is just remain a sense of calm and control. So even if you were lost in the woods, let's say, the first step to survival is to not panic, right? Stay calm. And we know that that is really hard to do these days when our social media feeds and the news stories popping up on our phones and all of the email, I don't know about you guys, but the email inboxes are just flooded with information, and a lot of that information can feel very unnerving. So our first recommendation to you is to stay calm. Although we've not really experienced a crisis for most of us in our lives, such as this COVID-19 in recent times, our economy always bounces back. And so as we go through this, we remind you to stay calm, take in these tips, but also know it will take some time. Yes, probably quite a bit of time, but our economy always bounces back. So with that, when looking at your money, or maybe the lack thereof in a case such as this crisis, there's a few things we recommend that you start with. So the first thing being, make one financial decision at a time. When we are faced with multiple back-to-back decisions that test our willpower, research suggests that our willpower can then become depleted. So what we recommend is that you space out your decisions instead of becoming overwhelmed by making too many at once. So if you are weighing, should I pay my rent? I've got credit card payments due. I'm trying to save some money. I have to think about paying for school next year, helping your family financially, right? It just starts to feel that overwhelming. So we recommend that you really prioritize your spending and make one decision at a time. Also, limiting that time on social media sites where you're doing kind of impulse, impromptu spending, and avoid leaving your credit card numbers automatically on some of your accounts. So for example, if you're an Amazon shopper, it's super easy to go in there as a Prime member and check out because your credit card information is already saved on that site. And one quick tip to help you with that irrational spending would be to remove the credit card number on the site so that you actually have to give yourself a moment to get up, go to your wallet, find the number, and put the card in. It can also help avoid that temptation and harmful panic buying that we saw a few weeks back with the toilet paper and the cleaning supplies. Because when we start the panic buying, we see it can definitely be more harmful than provide good to our communities. Then we also challenge you to start thinking critically and within for the bigger picture. Kind of what do you want with your financial situation, and know that it's okay right now to change those financial goals. So write down ways that you can cut back on your expenses or manage your money more efficiently. So we know that building a budget and looking at all the numbers in the short term can be really anxiety provoking at first, but overall in the long run, having that plan and reviewing it regularly can reduce your stress. So if you haven't done a budget yet or built out a spending plan, we want to make sure that you start doing that very first as your first step so that you have a good idea of what money is coming in and what money is coming out, and then you can prioritize those bills. Now, I should also say that if you're feeling like I can't even pay my bills right now, we recommend this communication is the key right now, that you reach out to all your landlords if you can, your banks, and any creditors that you might have through credit card payments, so that they can work with you on payment plans. Also, in tough economic times, it's people are more likely to relieve stress sometimes by turning towards unhealthy activities, such as smoking or drinking or maybe online gambling or emotional eating. And I just saw an article a couple weeks ago that said booze sales are booming. And so we know that the strain can also lead to a strain with our partners and our household members who you're quarantined with right now. And so just kind of being aware of those behaviors if they're causing you trouble, and their stressors maybe beyond just the financial stressors, that you take time to reach out and know that there's help available for you, help in the terms of counseling services we have through the university, and then our coaching services. We're here to help you and kind of walk through some of those financial concerns and stressors you might be experiencing. So with that, that's more of the kind of the mental check as what do we do to make sure we're not panicking, staying super calm, and starting to keep track of what we're spending. So if you're overwhelmed, or even if you're not really you're not really sure where you want to start, the first thing we recommend that you do is look back, if you can, at the last 6 months of where you have spent money. And if 6 months feels too much, too overwhelming to you, then just go back to the last month, maybe even go back to the last 3 months if possible. And we recommend that you track it through, you could look at your bank account online, you could pull up online statements, anything that you can to see where's your money going, and it will help you identify some trends that you might see in your spending habits. Keep a daily list then, so being more proactive instead of reactive and looking back. Keep a list of how you're spending money right now. I can tell you that in our coaching sessions recently, we've met with a lot of students who are back home. It's kind of like being back in high school again in a way, so they're not having to buy the groceries, they're not going out to eat because they can't right now with friends. The entertainment expenses of going out with friends has been cut back, and so we're seeing a trend where students are actually saving quite a bit of money. But that can be challenging also to save anything if you are paying those bills and then have maybe a cut in a job. So we recommend the next thing you do is prioritize your bills. So keeping kind of, the rent top of mind, any of your obligations that you have to creditors, so student loan payments, credit card payments, things like that, making sure that you can cover all of your food and necessities and prioritize those bills to come first. The other thing during this time, and we talked a little bit about the Amazon shopping, but really breaking down what do we need versus what do we want, right? And so now is a time where we're focused much more on our needs. So the things we have to survive include our food, our shelter, our clothing. And so we want to make sure that you're looking at cutting back on those things that you might feel like you need, but you actually are just wants. Then after you've kept track of some of these things, you've evaluated how you're spending money, is it in alignment with your values, what you need and what you want? You'd want to go back and review your budget and cut out any unnecessary expenses. So if you've logged into, let's say, and I'm just using this as an example, Audible, and you signed up for a membership through Audible, but you no longer use it. Now you're on to just streaming videos and watching things on Hulu. That would be an expense right there that you could cut out simply by canceling your subscription for the month and just say for the next few months, I'm not going to use that. Or maybe that is something during this time that is keeping you sane and you want to have access to it. Those are the times that you'll look back at your budget and then figure out how you can cut out any of those unnecessary expenses. And now more than ever, it's important to just live comfortably, right? Live within some of our basic needs, but not above our means. We did have one of our coaching participants who had said, I'm just going to go out and live like I'm dying these days and just spend however I want. And we want you to make sure you're comfortable, make sure again that you're in alignment with what's really important to you and how you spend your money, but not going too far above your means. Then this is all conditional again as to where you're sitting at currently. Do you have a job? Are you looking at saving some money right now, or are you very worried because you have debts? So we know that these are uncertain times and everyone's actions are going to vary, but these are some suggestions for you that if you have savings and you also have debt, you might want to take some of the income you have now to work to pay off your debts so that you will have more freedom down the road to use your monthly income for unexpected expenses in the months to come. Now, if you have little savings, you may want to save more for unexpected expenses. And that's just to build a cushion. Experts recommend that you save anywhere from 3 to 6 months of your expenses that you would have covered in case you are faced with a job loss or any other outside emergency. And if you have no debts and lots of savings, and again, this can go either way, we recommend right now trying a side hustle. We know that can be difficult to get creative and think of other opportunities that might be out there right now when there's so many cutbacks, but there are a lot of grocery stores who are hiring immediately to help with the influx of customers. And if you are lucky to have the transportation, you may also consider doing some kind of delivery program, or like an Uber Eats or Instacart or something like that, to just try to increase some kind of income right now. And again, that's all conditional if it's something that you're comfortable doing and feel safe doing. Some other tips for you to just carry with you in the days to come. Again, this is conditional as to where you at personally with your money and how you've been managing it over the last couple of months and in the days to come. But we do suggest that you stick what works for you, right? And change any of the bad habits that you might have. You might want to look at changing those pretty quick. It's okay, and you should adjust your financial goals. We think that you should look at your goals, both short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals, and say that, you know, if you were planning to go study abroad over this summer and now that's a program that might not be available to you, then you would look at possibly adjusting that goal to going next year if that's an option for you. We also recommend that at this time, don't assume that your creditors or your lenders or your loan servicers, if you have student loans, are allowing delayed payments for everyone. You have to communicate with them. They're not all of these places are automatically offering waivers. In the state of Nevada, there was a moratorium on evictions, which gives our state renters some breathing room for the next month or so. However, the relief does not forgive missed payments. It's just deferring your payments. So it allows them to be paid at a later date, but you still have to communicate with your landlord. Evictions might be halted, but you need to talk to your landlord, and possibly they may ask for some documentation. You could ask them for a grace period, some more time to make the payments to them, or even request a payment plan. But that won't automatically be available unless you're talking to them and communicating. We also recommend that you continue to pay minimums on your credit cards. So if you can, at least pay the minimum so it doesn't ding your credit. But also, with that being said, work with your creditor to settle, if needed, on a minimum payment plan during this time with no surcharges. You might need to pay the minimum for a few months. Let's say you were really tackling your debt and wanted to get it paid down quickly. Over the next few months, you may, and again, it's just conditional to where you're at, you may want to pay the minimum for a few months so that you would allow yourself to save anything extra that you can. And with that being said, we hope that you save anything if that's an option for you right now. Things are tight right now. We anticipate things could get tighter in the months to come. We don't know how long this will happen. The other thing is don't hold out for extra money from the government. There is a lot of buzz right now about more bills being passed, more relief coming. That may occur, but nothing at this point is set in stone. So if you're looking at this and going, oh gosh, I don't really know where to start anymore. I love these tips, but I need to apply them to my own lives. Then we do again suggest that you work with us. Just schedule an appointment anytime you're ready with one of our coaches, and we'll talk with you about it. With that, we also wanted to very quickly just introduce the stimulus package that you've heard more than likely in the news over the last couple weeks. So about 2 weeks ago, President Trump signed a bipartisan, it was a $2 trillion economic relief plan called the CARES Act, which stands for the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. And it was to offer assistance to tens of millions of Americans, households affected by the coronavirus pandemic. So as part of the plan, it includes stimulus payments, which has gotten probably the most buzz, but also with that, expanded unemployment coverage, student loan changes, and some different retirement account rules and more. So with that, how does that affect you? Most adults will receive about $1,200, and this $1,200 is dependent on how you're filing, if you're filing married and jointly, and how you're filing in terms of your income. So the fastest way to receive the money is to make sure that you filed a tax return for 2019, or if you haven't done so, they will use your 2018 tax return information. And they're planning to get these out. I believe the dates were, I want to say in the next 2 weeks, they are starting to distribute them, and some households will start seeing them, if all goes well, around April 20th. And so they would use your bank information that you had included on your tax return form with the direct deposit account number. Now there's a couple things for students that I wanted you to be aware of, because most students are considered dependents on their parents' tax returns. So you must be a dependent 16 years and younger for your parents to receive the additional $500 per child. So unfortunately, for college students who are claimed as a dependent on their parents' tax return, they will not receive the extra $500 in funds. And students, if you're not an independent claiming you're on your own, completing your own tax return, then you more than likely will not receive the $1,200 either. So usually, and if you have questions about the independent status there, it's usually students under the age of 24 are dependents in the eyes of taxing authorities. So if a parent pays for at least half of their expenses, or a student is enrolled full-time in school. One more thing to mention on this slide as well is that if you are planning to, or you're anticipating receiving the stimulus check, you want to make sure that your routing number and bank account number are correct. And you can do that through the IRS online. But the routing number is a specific number tied to the bank that you use, and your bank account number is not necessarily, and it usually never is, your ATM card number. So you would want to reach out to your bank if you needed that additional information with your routing number and your bank number. Just know that it's not tied to your ATM card. So I jumped ahead here a little bit, but this is just some more information just to review again. Will you receive the $1,200? Unfortunately, no, if you're claimed as a dependent, and most students are. If you have questions about whether or not you are, we recommend the best place for you to find out would be to chat with your parents first. And remember that they will be sending out the direct deposit of these stimulus checks within the next couple of weeks. That is the fastest way to get it. I think over 80% of Americans receive any tax returns back through direct deposit. But if you don't have that set up, you will receive a check. It will just take a little bit longer for you to receive it. These are live links. We are recording this webinar. I am happy to share slides with anyone who is an interest in this, but we found these to be very important and helpful resources for you during this time. I had mentioned the IRS tax filing information, also Nevada Unemployment Office. Many of the folks that work over at the unemployment offices are working from home, and they are processing millions of unemployment insurance applications right now. And so, as you can imagine, some things are kind of behind, but there's been a lot of promises made to folks that they would backdate, of course, any of the unemployment disbursements that you should receive from them backdated to your application date. Just know that they're a little backed up right now. So if that was the case for you, they will get to those. It's just taking a bit. Pack Provisions is a fantastic resource on campus for our students. They provide, it's a food pantry, and they're doing a delivery service. They're located in the Joe Crowley Student Union, but they've partnered with our campus escort vans and can do delivery of just basic need supplies that you might require, such as canned food. They have other types of food, not just canned food, and some wonderful like home good packages with shampoo and soaps and those kind of things. If you're not feeling well, of course, there's a student health center, and the financial aid office is working really hard behind the scenes to make sure that everything is working okay for you in terms of gearing up for the fall semester. And if you have any additional questions regarding any emergency aid, that was also part of the CARES Act. Many of the higher education institutions across the United States are receiving some emergency funds to help students with basic needs, such as paying for rent, buying food, additional bills and things like that. And so they're working through the process as to how those funds will be dispersed. If you have questions, you can reach out to financial aid. And then just as an overarching site, we think that just any guidance that you can follow from the CDC is very valuable at this time. With that, I hope that you learned a thing or two about managing your money during finances. Remember, just take one thing at a time. Try to stay calm, start with those budgets, just figuring out what are your current trends and your current habits were in the last couple of months to see how you were spending money and what you could set aside in the months to come to help yourself if need be. We are offering some more sessions in the weeks to come because the month of April is Financial Literacy Month, and the next session will be on Tuesday, and that one is going to go over more of the psychology of money and sort of why we make the choices that we do in our spending. And we'll have a little bit of fun with that. Then the following week, if we have any folks who have student loans or graduating soon, looking at repayment, we will cover, we're using the theme of Stranger Things to explain to you all the different types of repayment through stranger loans. And then we'll wrap up the month on Tuesday the 28th with some myth busting around money myths. So we're hoping to have some fun with that and hope that it was easy for you to register today and that you'll join us for another one of these short sessions. We hope also that you'll stay connected with us. These are our social media, these are our social media handles. Follow us on there for any updates. We continue to post articles that are relevant during this time, as well as tips and quotes and tools. And our money mentors are great and super creative and fun with that. And we hope that it will bring some brightness to your social media feeds in the months to come. So with that, I am going to just kind of back out of here, stop the share really quick, and get my video back up and just see if we have any additional questions. I see Paris said, any tips on remote jobs that might be hiring now? Yes, yesterday I had sent my team, and I'm blanking on the name of it. Let me see if I can find it for you really quick. I don't know the credibility of this particular site, but there was some remote jobs available, or at least some things that you could search for. I'm taking remote as wanting to work from home, correct? Okay, let me open up my email and I'll see if I can find it for you really quick. Give me just a second. Sorry, I'm blanking on the name. And Money Mentors, if you're out there, I sent it to you and I said, hey, can you check out these websites and let me know if it sounds good. There's one available to students. It's called Scholly, SCHOLLY, which has, that's for a student relief fund going on now, where students can apply for $200 in aid. Scholly also is a scholarship website, so it looks like they're doing some kind of additional relief there, so it's not a job. Oh, but the other one that I was thinking of, and it just popped into my head because I read it yesterday. Again, don't know the credibility of the site, but feel free to check it out, called the Rat Race Rebellion, to look for work from home jobs. They range from about $10 to $25. And the recommendation there is, when you're looking, stick to some of the more well-known companies like Apple, Dell, American Express, and etc. So maybe that will work. Maybe that will help. I'm not sure. Awesome. Well, thank you again from Nevada Money Mentors. We hope to see you next week. Have a good day, everyone.